America, a nation who for much of its history has been at war with either other powers or even itself. A nation whose indigenous population is remembered even today as one of the most persecuted groups in human history. A nation which, on December 29, 1890, proved that the white man was here to stay. This week on Special Area Slip-Ups, we trace the context and consequences behind one of the most notorious incidents of colonization in the New World, the Wounded Knee Massacre. Ever since the original 13 colonies gained their independence in 1776, America's westward expansion was inevitably going to bring the new white settlers into the original territory of the Native American tribes. These indigenous people often resisted the brutal expansion of the white settlers, so much so that they would fight active wars against the colonists for much of the 1800s. In the latter half of the century, however, the federal government signed several peace treaties with the tribesmen. Those deals mostly followed a similar pattern, and that is this. The federal government would set aside a plot of land within a state, or sometimes across several states, as the Native Indian reserve for that tribe. As long as the tribe stayed within that reserve and didn't attack white settlers, the government would then provide them food rations, education, and other state-funded benefits. Within those reservations, agencies would be created to represent the federal government in Washington, D.C. to the native populace. Now, this system sounds rather adequate, but the American government often found itself breaking the peace treaties in order to gain more territory and the resources within that territory. One particular group which had to deal with this constant breaking was the Sioux tribe, of which the Lakota, keep that name in mind, is a subsect. Constant amendments to their original peace treaty meant that by 1889, the tribe was not only being forcefully assimilated into American culture, but they were also on the brink of starvation. In the midst of this upheaval came a prophet in the form of Wovoka, a tribesman from the neighboring Paiute group who believed that the conduct of a ritual known as the ghost dance would solve all the problems faced not only by the Lakota, but by the entire native population. Among the Lakota, this dance began to rise rapidly in popularity, worrying the federal agents of the area. By November of 1890, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or the BIA, had deployed a large contingent of U.S. Army forces near the Lakota reservation with the express goal of stopping the rise of the ghost dance, which to the federal agents appeared to be preparations for war. The situation grew even more tense on December 15th when infamous Lakota chief Sitting Bull, who had led his people to victory over the Americans in the Battle of Little Bighorn, was killed in a standoff with tribal policemen working on behalf of the white government. After this incident, another chief by the name of Red Cloud was attempting to negotiate peace with the federal forces in order to de-escalate the situation. His people were camped near Pine Ridge in South Dakota. Another Lakota chief, Bigfoot, hoped to lead his 350 followers to that area and take part in the peace negotiations. However, because his tribe had been on the BIA's list of hostiles, Major General Nelson A. Miles ordered units of the 7th Cavalry Division in the area to intercept Bigfoot and escort his tribe to a military prison at Fort Omaha, Nebraska. On December 28th, this detachment neared the camp of Bigfoot near Wounded Knee Creek, about 32 kilometers northeast of Pine Ridge. Bigfoot and his tribe would never reach their final destination. In the process of weapons confiscation, a deaf native's gun accidentally went off, startling the American troops and signaling the beginning of the massacre. The 7th Cavalry made no attempts at peace or mercy. The snow that day in the creek ran red with the blood of native tribesmen, women, and children. It's estimated that more than 250 Lakota were cut down that day, either by cold saber or hot bullet. None of them fought back, and yet somehow fate took some payment from the white men. 25 American soldiers were also killed as a result of friendly fire. What's even more tragic, however, is the aftermath of the event. The American Army did not condone a single soldier or commander who was there that day. In fact, quite the opposite. 20 men of the 7th Cavalry received the highest achievement for their actions, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Neither Major General Miles nor Colonel James Forrest, who had ordered the confiscation of weapons and was present during the entire incident, was fired or demoted. The Wounded Knee Massacre marked the beginning of the end for native Indian independence from the American civilization. The ghost dance would fade away shortly thereafter, and Wovoka himself would preach to his tribe to follow the only trail now open, the white man's road. The Wounded Knee Massacre, then, is a mistake that has stained the record of the American nation and government for decades, and now centuries after it occurred. It is perhaps a cautionary tale about what happens when new ideas and beliefs clash against tradition and old settlements in a new land. It's happened many times before in history, and it will happen many times after in the saga of colonization and European imperialism. Next week, join us as we turn back the clock even more and go back to an ancient time period, moving away from the west and now to the east as we cover the Battle of Changping in ancient China. See you then, scholars.